Engineering this way. I led him through the corridors, very aware of my crew staring. We didn't get many aliens aboard the Starweaver, and we certainly didn't get many humans. They were rare in this sector, and most of what we knew about them came from rumors and secondhand stories. Dangerous, some said. Reckless, unpredictable. Others called them brilliant, resourceful, stubborn to the point of insanity. Looking at Marcus Kane, I wasn't sure which camp was correct. Possibly both. Engineering was a mess. Smoke damage on the walls, the acrid smell of burnt circuitry, and the 3 massive fusion cores sitting dark and silent like the hearts of dead gods. "Oh boy," Marcus said softly. "You folks really did a number on these, didn't you?" "It was not intentional," Vexar said coldly. "We encountered a gravimetric anomaly. The cores overloaded trying to compensate." "Yeah, I bet they did." Marcus set down his toolbox and started pulling out instruments I didn't recognize. See, that's the problem with Keel-Toan safety systems. They are too smart. Something goes wrong and they try to fix it, but if they can't fix it, they shut everything down to prevent damage. Except by shutting down, they cause more damage. It's a loop. He moved to the first core, running some kind of scanning device over it. Okay. This one's not too bad. Control circuits are fried, but the core itself is intact. This one, he moved to the second core, this one's got a cracked containment field. That's trickier. And this one, he paused at the third core, letting out a low whistle. This one is truly dead, like gone. Needs a complete rebuild. Which is impossible, Vexar said, as I informed the captain. Impossible? Marcus looked at him with those strange forward-facing eyes. Buddy, I don't think you know what that word means. And then, before any of us could stop him, he pulled off his coverall to reveal a sweat-stained shirt underneath, grabbed a tool that looked like it could cut through hull plating, and started disassembling the first fusion core. "Wait," Vexar shouted. "You cannot just... There are procedures for, protocols, safety checks." "Yeah, and following all those procedures is what got you into this mess," Marcus said, without looking up. "Trust me, I know what I'm doing." "This is insane," Vexar hissed at me. "Captain, you must stop this madness. He is going to destroy what remains of our systems." But I found myself strangely calm. Maybe it was resignation. Maybe it was something else. Let him work. For the next 3 hours, I watched something I had never seen before. Marcus Kane worked like a man possessed. No, that wasn't right. He worked like a man who knew exactly what he was doing, who had done it 1,000 times before, who saw things in the machinery that my trained engineer couldn't see. He bypassed safety systems, he rewired control circuits on the fly, he pulled components from one core and transplanted them into another. He cursed in what I assumed was his native language, a fluid stream of words that sounded both musical and violent. "Hand me that plasma welder," he said at one point. "Which one?" I asked. "The one that looks like it could kill someone if you used it wrong." He paused. "Actually, they all look like that. The blue one." I handed it to him, and he proceeded to do something to the containment field that made Vexler make a sound like a dying engine. "He is welding the quantum flex conduits directly," Vexler whispered. That should not be possible." "And yet," I said. At hour 4, Marcus stood up, wiped sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand, and stretched. His spine made several popping sounds that I found deeply disturbing. "Okay," he said. "Core 1 is operational. Core 2 is operational but running at 70%. Core 3, he looked at the devastated remains of the third core, Core 3 is going to take more work." 2 cores is enough to get us to the nearest station, I said, not quite believing what I was hearing. "Oh, I'm not done," Marcus said, grinning that predatory grin again. "Just taking a break. You folks got anything to eat around here? I'm starving." In the mess hall, I watched Marcus Kane consume an amount of food that seemed impossible for a creature his size. 3 full meals, 2 desserts, and something he kept referring to as coffee that smelled like industrial solvent. "So," he said between bites, "what brings a fancy Keel-Toan exploration ship this far out?" "Survey mission," I said. "Cataloging new systems, looking for resources, making contact with new species. The usual." "Sounds boring." It usually is, I admitted, until your ship breaks down in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, that'll liven up your day. He took another drink of his coffee. You know, you folks are lucky I was passing through. This sector is usually empty. What brings you out here? I asked. Work, he said simply. I go where the jobs are. Fixed a mining station last month, helped a colony get their water recyclers running the month before that. I'm good at fixing things. It's what I do. You are very skilled, I said, and I meant it. Where did you train? Marcus laughed. Train? I didn't train anywhere formal. Learn from my dad, who learned from his dad. Humans, we have this thing where we just figure stuff out. Trial and error. Break it, fix it, break it again, fix it better. By the time you do that enough times, you know how it works. That sounds extremely inefficient, I said. Maybe, Marcus agreed, but it works. And right now, your efficient Keeltoan engineering is sitting dead, while my inefficient human methods are bringing it back to life. So maybe there's something to be said for doing things the hard way. He had a point. After his meal, Marcus went back to engineering. I followed, fascinated despite myself. Tira joined us, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear of the strange alien in our engineering bay. I don't understand how he's doing this, she whispered to me. He's using tools I've never seen, techniques that shouldn't work, and he's making it look easy. Core 3 was, according to Wexler, unsalvageable. The containment field was shattered, the fusion chamber was compromised, the control systems were melted slag. Marcus looked at it for a long moment, then nodded to himself. Right, this is going to get weird. He pulled out what looked like a spare fusion chamber from his impossibly large toolbox. It wasn't Keeltoan design. It wasn't any design I recognized. Is that human technology? Wexler asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Yep, Marcus said cheerfully. Human-made fusion chamber. Smaller than yours, but it will work. We're going to hybridize your system. That's impossible. That's impossible, Wexler said automatically. You keep using that word, Marcus said. Watch and learn, buddy. What followed was 6 hours of the most impressive, terrifying, and completely unauthorized modification of a starship I had ever seen. Marcus didn't just repair the third core, he rebuilt it using a combination of Keeltoan and human technology, creating something that shouldn't exist, that violated about 17 different engineering principles, and that somehow impossibly worked. Fire her on, Marcus said, finally stepping back from his work. Wexler, his mandibles hanging open in shock, moved to the control panel. His hand shook as he activated the startup sequence. The first core hummed to life, then the second, then the third, the hybrid monstrosity that Marcus had created that sang at a slightly different frequency but burned just as bright. Power flooded back into our ship. Lights came on, life support kicked in, our instruments came back online. The Star Weaver, dead and drifting, was alive again. Impossible, Wexler whispered. There's that word again, Marcus said, packing up his tools. You folks really need to expand your vocabulary. I stared at the human, this strange, flat-faced, predatory creature who had walked on my dying ship and brought it back to life with nothing but skill, stubbornness, and a complete disregard for what was supposed to be possible. Mr. Kane, I said slowly, I think 10,000 credits was insufficient payment. Nah, he said, waving a hand. A deal's a deal. Besides, this was fun. Haven't worked on a Keeltoan ship in months. Forgot how pretty you folks make your fusion cores. Fun, I repeated. You found this fun? Sure. Beats sitting in a bar somewhere drinking bad alcohol. Which reminds me, you folks got any good alcohol? That coffee was terrible. Sorry, but it was. I found myself laughing. I couldn't help it. The absurdity of it all, the relief, the sheer impossibility of what had just happened. I laughed until my sides hurt, and Tira joined in, and even Wexler made a sound that might have been amusement. Marcus grinned his predatory grin. So, about that alcohol. We broke out the good stuff, the really good stuff, the bottle I had been saving for our triumphant return home. We sat in the mess hall, my senior officers, and this strange human mechanic, and we drank and talked and laughed. So let me get this straight, Marcus said, slightly tipsy. You folks spend 200 years training to be engineers, follow every rule, every procedure, every protocol, and your ship still breaks down? Meanwhile, I learned by breaking things in my dad's garage. I make up half my techniques as I go along, and I fixed your ship in less than a day. When you put it that way, I said, also slightly tipsy, it does seem rather ridiculous. I think, Vexler said carefully, and this was after several drinks because he never admitted this sort of thing sober, I think perhaps we have become too reliant on our procedures, too afraid to simply try things. That's the human way, Marcus said, raising his glass. Try it. If it breaks, try something else. If it works, do it again. Keep trying until something sticks. To trying things, I said, raising my own glass. To trying things, everyone echoed. We drank. Later, much later, I walked Marcus back to his ship. The Wanderer looked no less ridiculous. Or horror, possibly both. This is not up to code, she said finally. Which code? I asked. Calorian Galactic, because it meets all safety standards, operates within acceptable parameters, and has kept us alive for 3 days without a single problem. It is still not regulation. Regulations nearly killed us, I said, and my voice was harder than I intended. We followed every procedure, every protocol, every rule. Our cores still failed. Marcus Keene ignored most of those rules, and he saved our lives, so forgive me if I am not overly concerned with regulations right now. Melnia looked at me for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, she laughed. It was a strange hissing sound. You have changed, Captain Raynoth. 3 days ago, you would never have said that. 3 days ago, I had not met a human mechanic. Yes, about that. Velnia crossed her arms. Where is this Marcus Kane now? I would very much like to meet him. He left shortly after repairs were complete, heading further into the outer rim, I believe. Work to be found out there, he said. Of course he did. Ralna shook her head. Humans. They wander the galaxy fixing things, charging next to nothing, and then disappear before anyone can properly thank them or arrest them. Arrest them? Tyra said. For what? Unauthorized modifications, unlicensed repair work, operating without proper certification. Take your pick. Velna waved a hand. Though I suspect arresting a human would be more trouble than it is worth. They tend to be difficult about such things. She was right about that. We spent the next 2 hours going over every system on the ship, documenting the repairs, filling out forms that no one would ever read. By the time we were done, my head was pounding, and I desperately wanted to sleep for a week. Instead, I went to the station bar. It was crowded, as always. Outpost 17 was a hub for traders, explorers, freelancers, and various other beings who lived on the edge of civilized space. The kind of place where you could hear a dozen languages at once, and half of them were arguing. I found a quiet corner, ordered something strong, and tried to process the last few days. You are Captain Raynoth, a voice said. I looked up. The dragon, scales gleaming in the dim light, was standing by my table. His species was known for 2 things: exceptional pilots and exceptional gossip. I am, I said cautiously. I heard what happened to your ship. Heard a human fixed it. He sat down without being invited. That true it is. How much did he charge? 10,000 credits? The dragon's eyes widened. That is nothing. That is insulting. I paid 20,000 just to have my navigation systems recalibrated last month. He said it was a fair price. Either he's the worst businessman in the galaxy, or he is the best mechanic. Which is it? I considered that. Both, I think. The dragon leaned forward. Is he taking new clients? Because I have a problem with my starboard thruster that 3 different mechanics have failed to fix. I don't know where he is, I admitted. He left shortly after finishing our repairs. Damn. The dragon sat back, looking disappointed. Then he grinned. But you know what he looks like, right? You could describe him. I could put the word out, see if anyone spots him. And that was how it started. Over the next few hours, I ended up telling the story of Marcus Kane to at least 15 different beings. Each time, the crowd got a little bigger. Each time, someone had another question. What did he look like? What tools did he use? How long did the repairs take? Could he fix their ship too? By the time I staggered back to the Starweaver, exhausted and slightly drunk, there were at least 50 beings who wanted to hire Marcus Kane sight unseen. "Captain," Vexar said when I arrived, "you will not believe what has been happening. Try me. We have received 17 job offers, colonies wanting us to bring a human mechanic to fix their infrastructure, mining operations requesting human assistance with their equipment, even a military contractor asking if we knew where to find human engineers." I stared. 17? 18 now. Another just came in. 3 hours. "Word travels fast in the Outer Rim," Tyra said. She looked amused. "It seems that Marcus Kane's reputation is growing faster than he can fly." I sat down heavily. "This is insane." "This is humanity," Vexler said. "One human mechanic saved our lives and did excellent work for a fair price. Now everyone wants human mechanics. It is basic economics, supply and demand." "Except there is no supply," I pointed out. "There is one Marcus Kane, and he's somewhere in the Outer Rim doing whatever he pleases." "Then perhaps," Vexler said slowly, "we should find more humans." I looked at him. "You want to recruit human mechanics?" "Why not? They clearly have skills that the rest of the galaxy lacks. If one human can save a ship thought to be beyond repair, imagine what a dozen could do. Or 100. It was an interesting thought, a terrifying thought, but interesting. "That would require going to human space," Talira said, "making official contact, negotiating contracts. Humans are not part of the Galactic Council. They have their own governments, their own rules." "Then we make them part of the council," I said. The words came out before I could stop them. But once I said them, I realized I meant it. We bring humanity into the fold officially. "That is above our authority," Talira said gently. "I know, but I can make recommendations. I can file reports. I can tell the council exactly what happened and why we need human expertise." I stood up, suddenly energized, despite my exhaustion. "Write everything down. Every detail of what Marcus Kane did. Every technique he used. Every rule he broke. I want a complete record." "Captain," Talira said, "the council will not like hearing that a human ignored safety protocols." "The council can deal with it," I said firmly. "Marcus Kane saved our lives by ignoring protocols. That is a fact. The council needs to hear it." 2 days later, as I was preparing my report, something interesting happened. Outpost 17's long-range sensors picked up a distress signal. "Captain," the station's operations officer contacted me, "there's a ship in trouble, approximately 6 hours away. Propulsion failure." "Send us the coordinates," I said. "What kind of ship?" "Commercial freighter, Tarvian registry. They are requesting immediate assistance." We detached from the station and headed out. 6 hours of flight time gave me plenty of opportunity to wonder if this was fate or just coincidence. When we arrived at the coordinates, we found the freighter drifting exactly as described, dead in space, running on emergency power. "This is Captain Raynoth of the Starweaver," I transmitted. "We received your distress call. What is your situation?" "Captain, thank the stars." The Tarvian captain sounded desperate. "Our main engine is offline, complete failure. We cannot restart it. We have cargo that must reach its destination in 3 days, or we lose everything." "Do you have a mechanic aboard?" "Yes, but he says the damage is too severe. We need a shipyard. We need specialized equipment. We need time we do not have." I smiled. "Captain, I have a better idea. Have you heard of human mechanics?" There was a pause. "I have heard stories, wild stories. Are they true?" "Every single one," I said. "Send us your engine specifications. We'll see what we can do." Vexler looked at me. "Captain, we do not have a human mechanic aboard." "No," I agreed, "but we have something better. We have his techniques." For the next 8 hours, we worked on that freighter's engine. Vexler led the effort, but he did something I'd never seen him do before.
He improvised. He tried things that were not in the manual. He bypassed safety systems. He welded components that should not have been welded. He worked like Marcus Kane. And it worked. The engine roared back to life. Not perfect, but functional. The Tarvian captain was so grateful. He tried to pay us double our standard salvage fee. I refused, instead charging him 10,000 credits. Why so little? He asked, confused. Because, I said, a human once told me that was a fair price for saving lives. Word spread faster after that. Captain Raynoth and the Starweaver using human techniques to repair impossible damage, taking on jobs that other ships refused, going places that were too remote, too dangerous, too difficult for regular repair crews. We became famous for it. Within 2 weeks, we had more work than we could handle. Within a month, other ships were trying to copy our methods. Within 2 months, there was a waiting list of vessels wanting keel-towing engineers trained in human techniques. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, I got a message. It was audio only, routed through so many relay stations that tracing it was impossible, but I recognized the voice immediately. "Hey, Captain," Marcus Kane said. "Heard you've been telling stories about me, making me sound like some kind of hero. Just wanted to say thanks. Also, wanted to let you know I'm heading back toward the core systems. Figured there might be more work there now." Funny how that works, right? You save one ship and suddenly everyone wants to hire you. Anyway, if you ever need anything fixed again, look me up. And tell Vexler he did good work on that freighter. I heard about it. He's learning. That makes me happy. Humans, we like it when people learn. Means we're not the only crazy ones anymore. Stay safe out there, Captain. The galaxy needs more people willing to try impossible things. Marcus out. The message ended. I played it 3 more times, smiling wider each time. "Captain," Talira said.
I should have known the day would go catastrophically wrong when our chief engineer, Vexar, started making that clicking sound with his mandibles. You know the one. That nervous, high-pitched clicking that means someone with 4 university degrees and 200 years of experience has absolutely no idea what they are doing. So I said, trying to keep my voice steady as the lights flickered for the 17th time in the past hour, "How bad is it really?" Vexler's 3 eyes refused to meet any of mine. That was bad. Very bad. When a keel-towing engineer won't make eye contact, you might as well start writing your will. "Captain Riney," he began, and oh no, he was using my full title, "the primary fusion core has suffered a complete cascade failure. The secondary core is offline. The tertiary backup system is, well, it no longer exists as a functional unit." Translate that into words that don't make me want to throw myself out an airlock, I said. "We are dead in space, Captain. No power, no propulsion, no life support beyond emergency batteries that will last perhaps 48 hours. He paused, and his antenna drooped. Maybe less. Perfect, just perfect. The Starweaver, pride of the Keel-towing fleet, most advanced exploration vessel ever constructed, was now an extremely expensive coffin drifting through the outer rim. We were 3 weeks from the nearest station, 2 months from home, and apparently minutes away from becoming a very tragic news story. "Options?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "We have none," Vexler said simply. "The damage is too extensive. Even if we had the parts, which we do not, the expertise required to rebuild 3 fusion cores simultaneously is beyond our capabilities. We would need a facility, a dry dock, time, none of which we possess." My second officer, Tira, spoke up from her station. Her voice was calm, but I could see the purple flush spreading across her scales. Fear. "Captain, I have sent distress signals on all frequencies. Nothing. We are in an empty sector. No traffic, no colonies, no mining operations. Nothing at all." Wait," she said, her head tilting. "I am detecting one vessel. Small, very small, unknown configuration. It is hailing us." That was unexpected. "On screen," I ordered. The view screen flickered to life, and I found myself looking at I wasn't sure what I was looking at.
The creature had a flat, pale face, 2 eyes positioned forward in a predatory arrangement, and a thatch of dark hair on top of its skull. It was wearing some kind of stained coverall and had something black smeared across its cheek. "Hello there," the creature said in surprisingly good galactic standard. "Picked up your distress call. You folks seem to be in a spot of trouble. Name's Marcus Kane, independent contractor. I fix things. You need things fixed?" I blinked all 4 of my eyes in sequence. "You are a repair technician?" "Mechanic," the human corrected. "But yeah, close enough. Your ship looks pretty rough from out here. What happened?" "Our fusion cores have failed," I said slowly, still trying to process this bizarre turn of events. "All 3 of them. Complete cascade failure." The human let out a low whistle. "Ouch, that's not good. Keeltoan design, right? Triple redundant fusion array, quantum flex conduits, graviton regulators." I felt my mouth go dry. How did this, whatever it was, know the technical specifications of our propulsion system? "Yes, exactly that. You are familiar with our technology?" "Familiar?" Marcus laughed. It was a strange barking sound. "Lady, I have rebuilt Keeltoan fusion cores in my sleep. Well, not literally, that would be dangerous, but I know them inside and out. Your species builds good stuff, really good stuff, but you over-engineer everything. Too many safety systems, too many automated controls. When something breaks, everything breaks." Vexler's mandibles were clicking again. "This is absurd, Captain. This creature cannot possibly have the expertise to repair our systems. Look at its vessel. It is barely larger than a shuttle. It appears to be held together with... Is that welding patches?" "Hey," Marcus said, and I noticed his predatory eyes had narrowed. "My ship runs fine, thank you very much. Been flying the Wanderer for 15 years without a major breakdown. Unlike you folks, apparently." "This is a waste of time," Vexar muttered. But I was thinking, we had 48 hours of air, maybe less, no other ships in range, no rescue coming. What exactly did we have to lose? "Mr. Kane," I said carefully, "if, and this is purely hypothetical, we were to allow you to attempt repairs, what would you require?" "Access to your engineering section, my tools, and maybe some of whatever passes for coffee on your ship," Marcus said. "Oh, and I'll need your engineer to stay out of my way. No offense, buddy, but I work better without someone breathing down my neck, or clicking, whatever that sound is." Vexler made an indignant noise that I ignored. "What is your rate?" I asked. "For saving your lives?" Marcus grinned, showing flat white teeth. "How about we call it 10,000 credits and a hot meal? I haven't had good food in weeks." 10,000 credits? That was nothing. Absolutely nothing. Either this human was an idiot, or... "You have a deal," I said quickly, before I could think better of it. "Transmitting docking coordinates now." 15 minutes later, I was standing in our main hangar watching the most ridiculous spacecraft I had ever seen clamp onto our docking port. The Wanderer looked like someone had built a ship out of spare parts, painted it with whatever colors were on sale, and then crashed it through a junkyard twice. The airlock hissed open, and Marcus Kane stepped aboard. He was taller than I expected. Humans, I had heard, came from a high-gravity world, but I hadn't realized what that meant in practical terms. He moved with a casual grace that spoke of strength, and he was carrying a large metal box that would have required 2 of my crew members to lift. "Nice ship," he said, looking around. "Real nice. You folks really do build them pretty and non-functional," I said dryly. "Well, let's see about fixing that." He hefted his toolbox.